Imagine this. You wake up one morning. The air heavy with a silence you can't name. The mirror reflects a face you've seen 1,000 times, but today, something's off. The eyes staring back don't belong to you, or do they? Asterisk, they're familiar. Yes, but they carry a weight, a quiet accusation. You brush it off, pour your coffee, scroll through the noise of the world, but that feeling clings like damp fog. What if the life you built, the job, the relationships, the beliefs you cling to, is a house of cards trembling on a foundation of lies? Not the big, obvious deceptions, but the small, insidious ones you whisper to yourself in the dark. The ones you don't even know you're telling. What if you've spent years running from a truth so close it's woven into your breath? You tell yourself you're fine, that this is just how life is, rushing from one distraction to the next, numbing the ache with screens, substances, or hollow affirmations. But deep down, there's a voice you've silenced so long it's become a stranger. It whispers, asterisk, this isn't you. This isn't real. Asterisk, and yet, you keep moving, keep pretending, because stopping would mean facing it. Facing what? That's the question that haunts you now, isn't it? What are you so afraid to see? Here's the paradox. You crave freedom, meaning a life that burns with purpose, but you chain yourself to a script you didn't even write. You say you want to be authentic, but every day you polish a mask you call me. You tell yourself you're in control, your choices, your path, but what if the reins aren't in your hands? What if they never were? The world spins on, a machine of expectations and half-truths, and you're caught in its gears, nodding along to its rhythm. Society says happiness is a paycheck, a status, a perfect smile on Instagram. You buy it, don't you? But why does it feel like swallowing sand? Consider this. What if the moment you stop lying to yourself is the moment life begins? Not the life you've been sold, the one that's loud, shiny, and empty, but something raw, untamed, almost frightening in its clarity. Imagine stripping away the stories you've draped over your soul like armor. The "I'm not good enough" you inherited from a careless word in childhood. The "I'll be happy when" that keeps you chasing shadows. The "this is just who I am" that locks you in a cage of your own making. What's left when the lies fall away? Who are you when the noise stops? You might think you know yourself. You've got a name, a history, a list of likes and dislikes. But what if that's just the surface, the ripples on a lake hiding a depth you've never dared to plumb? The great thinkers Jung, Nietzsche, Sartre wrestled with this. They saw humans as walking contradictions, torn between what we are and what we pretend to be. Jung called it the shadow, that murky underside you shove out of sight. Nietzsche raged against the herd, the lies we swallow to fit in. Sartre said we're condemned to be free, yet we build prisons out of denial. What do they all point to? A truth you feel in your bones, but can't yet name. Here's where it gets unsettling. What if you're not just lying about the little things like how much you hate your job or how lonely you feel, but about the big ones, about why you're here, what you want, what matters? You buried those questions under layers of routine, fear, and self-deception because the answers might unravel everything. And maybe they should. Maybe the life you're living isn't yours at all. It's a borrowed costume, a role you played to keep the world from looking too closely. But what happens when you drop the act? This isn't about guilt or blame. It's about a reckoning, a dare. Can you stand in the quiet and ask, asterisk, what am I hiding from myself? Asterisk, the tension coils tighter now, doesn't it? Because beneath that question lies a truth that could shatter the illusion or set you free. The real question is, are you ready to find out what's waiting on the other side of the lie? You've felt it, haven't you? That flicker of unease when the mask slips just for a second and you glimpse something real beneath the polished surface you show the world. It's not a loud revelation, not a thunderclap, it's subtle. A whisper in the back of your mind that says, this isn't all there is, but you turn away, you have to. Because to look closer means admitting the lie, the one you've been telling yourself since you learned how to fit in, how to survive. The lie that says you're fine as you are, that this half-lived life is enough. Why do you do it? Why do you keep the truth at arm's length, even as it gnaws at you? The answer lies deeper than you think, tangled in the roots of your psyche and the philosophies that have tried to map it. Carl Jung would tell you it's the shadow, that part of you you've banished to the basement of your soul. The anger you won't own, the desires you won't name, the fears you dress up as practicality. You lie to yourself because acknowledging the shadow means letting it breathe, letting it demand space in the light, and that terrifies you. Not because it's evil, but because it's you, unfiltered, untamed, unapologetic. Jung said integration is the path to wholeness, but integration feels like chaos when you've spent a lifetime building walls. Then there's Nietzsche, who'd sneer at your quiet conformity. He saw the herd everywhere, people shuffling through life, parroting beliefs they never questioned, chasing comfort over courage. You lie to yourself because it's easier to nod along than to stand alone. God is dead, he declared, not just as a jab at religion, but as a scream against the crutches you lean on, whether it's faith, society, or the story you tell yourself about who you're supposed to be. To stop lying, Nietzsche would say, is to embrace the abyss, to forge your own meaning. But the abyss doesn't come with a manual, and that's where the fear creeps in. Schopenhauer takes it darker still. He argues you lie because life itself is a relentless grind of want, desire after desire, never satisfied. You tell yourself you'll be happy when you get the promotion, the partner, the house, because admitting the chase is endless feels like drowning. His pessimism stings, but there's truth in it. You plaster over the void with distractions, pretending the next fix will save you. It won't, and deep down, you know it. So why keep running? Because stopping means facing the hunger that never sleeps. Sartre would frame it as a cowardice of freedom. You're free radically, terrifyingly free to choose who you are, what you value, how you live. But freedom comes with a catch. No excuses, no one to blame. You lie to yourself to dodge that weight, to pretend your choices are forced by circumstance, by others, by the way things are. Sartre called it bad faith living, as if you're a puppet when you're the one pulling the strings. Every time you say I can't when you mean I won't, you tighten the noose of that lie. And what about society? It's no innocent bystander. Aldous Huxley saw it coming, a world of brave new world distractions, where truth is drowned in noise and pleasure. You're conditioned from the cradle to crave approval, to measure your worth in likes and paychecks. The lie isn't just yours, it's baked into the system. You're told to be yourself, but only if it's palatable, profitable, predictable. Step outside that box, and the world gets nervous. So you stay small, swallowing the script, because the alternative feels like exile. Psychologically, this isn't abstract, it's wired into you. Your brain loves patterns, safety, certainty. Cognitive dissonance kicks in when the truth threatens your cozy worldview, so you twist reality to fit the lie. Confirmation bias keeps you nodding at what agrees with your story, ignoring what doesn't. The amygdala flares at the thought of change, screaming danger when you edge toward the unknown. You're not just lying, you're surviving, or so your mind thinks. But survival isn't living, is it? Viktor Frankl, who stared down the horrors of Auschwitz, would say the lie robs you of meaning. He found purpose in suffering, in choosing how to face it. You numb the pain instead, telling yourself it's fine, it's normal, it'll pass. But meaning doesn't come from denial, it comes from grappling with the raw, messy truth of who you are. The lie keeps you stuck, a prisoner in a cell with an unlocked door you refuse to see. So here you are, caught in a web of your own making, psychological instincts, philosophical traps, societal pressures, all whispering the same seductive promise: stay comfortable. Stay asleep, but the cost is mounting. You feel it in the restlessness, the quiet rage, the moments you wonder why you're still running on this treadmill to nowhere. The roots of this lie run deep, but they're not unbreakable. What happens when you start to pull them up? What waits beneath the surface you've so carefully smoothed over? That's where the real story begins if you dare to turn the page. You've been carrying it so long you don't even notice the weight anymore, that lie you stitched into the fabric of your days. It's not a single moment, not a grand deception you can point to and say, there, that's where it started. No, it's a slow drip, a quiet erosion, seeping into your thoughts, your choices, your very sense of what's real. You tell yourself it's harmless. What's a little denial here, a half-truth there, but step back, look closer. The life you're living, the one you call yours, is it really you, or just the shadow of a script you've never questioned? The consequences aren't loud, they don't shout. They whisper, and that's what makes them so dangerous. Start with your mind. Every time you lie to yourself about what you want, what you feel, what you're capable of, you carve a groove deeper into your psyche. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, that grinding tension when your actions clash with your truth. You say you're happy, but your chest tightens at night. You say you're fine alone, but the silence stings. Your brain scrambles to patch the gap, spinning stories to keep the illusion intact. Over time, those stories harden, they become your reality. You don't just believe the lie, you become it. Neuroscience backs this up. Neural pathways strengthen with repetition, lie enough, and the truth feels like a stranger. Then there's the toll on your soul if you'll let that word linger for a moment. Call it your essence, your core, whatever fits. When you deny what's real inside you, you starve it. You want to create, but you tell yourself you're not good enough so you don't try. You crave connection, but you pretend you're better off solo so you build walls. Each lie is a brick, and soon you're walled in, wondering why the world feels so dim. Jung would say you're betraying your own individuation, the journey to become who you're meant to be. You're not just lying, you're abandoning yourself. Zoom out, and it's not just personal, it's societal. You're not the only one sleepwalking through this. Look around, a world of people pretending they're fulfilled by endless scrolling, by chasing status, by swallowing platitudes about hustle and success. Huxley saw it in his dystopia, a society so drunk on distraction, it forgot how to feel. You play along because it's easier than standing out. But the lie you tell yourself ripples outward. You nod at shallow conversations, you buy into systems. You secretly despise, you raise kids to chase the same hollow dreams, the collective cost. A culture that's alive but not awake, moving but not moving anywhere, and the body keeps score. Gabor Mate would point to the stress, the cortisol spiking every time you suppress what's true. You tell yourself the job's fine, but your shoulder's not. You say the relationship's working, but your gut twists. The lie isn't just mental, it's physical, chronic stress, burnout, addiction. They're not random. They're signals. Your body knows what your mind won't admit. Mate's work with trauma shows how denial festers, how unvoiced pain turns inward, knowing it's your health, your vitality. You think you're holding it together, but you're cracking and the cracks are spreading. What about time? That's the thief you don't see coming. Every day you lie to yourself, I'll change tomorrow, I'll face it later, is a day you don't get back. Sartre's existential dread hits hard here. You're free, but freedom slips through your fingers when you refuse to act. You're not just postponing a decision, you're postponing your life. Years blur by, and one day you're staring at a stranger in the mirror, wondering where it all went. The lie steals your present and mortgages your future, all while you convince yourself there's still time. Is there? The unseen power of this is in its subtlety. It's not a car crash, not a siren, it's the slow fade of color from your world. Relationships erode because you won't say what's real. Dreams wither because you won't risk failure. Meaning slips away because you won't ask the hard questions. Schopenhauer would nod grimly, life's suffering anyway, he'd say, but you're making it worse by pretending it's not. You're not just surviving the grind, you're choosing it, day after day, lie after lie. And the world, it's happy to let you. It thrives on your inertia. Here's the kicker. You feel the consequences even if you don't name them, that restlessness when you're alone. That flash of envy when someone else dares what you won't, that ache you can't explain, it's the lie talking, rustling. Beneath the surface, begging to be seen, but you've gotten so good at ignoring it, haven't you? You've mastered the art of looking away. The question is, how long can you keep it up? How long before the cracks widen, before the weight you've carried in silence drags you under? You're standing at the edge now, peering into a chasm you've avoided your whole life. The lee's kept you safe, or so you thought, but it's also kept you small. The consequences aren't hypothetical, they're here, woven into every breath you take, every choice you dodge. But what if there's a way out? What if the moment you turn and face it, the raw, unfiltered truth, is the moment everything shifts? It's not safe, it's not easy, but it's closer than you think. Are you ready to step toward it? You're here now, teetering on the brink of something you've spent years avoiding. The lee's been your shield, your excuse, your soft prison, but it's crumbling. You can feel it, can't you? That pull towards something truer, sharper, more alive. It's not a gentle nudge. It's a rebellion, a raw, defiant scream against the script you've been handed. Breaking free doesn't start with a grand gesture or a tidy plan. It starts with a single, reckless act, turning around and staring the lee in the face. Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, now, because the truth doesn't wait for permission. First, you stop running. You've been sprinting from the questions, the doubts, the jagged edges of your own mind. Sit with them instead. Ask, what am I pretending not to know? Don't flinch when the answer comes. Maybe it's that you hate the life you built. Maybe it's that you're terrified of failing or succeeding. Maybe it's that you've never really known what you want, only what you're supposed to want. Jung would call this shadow work, dragging the buried parts into the light. It's messy, it's ugly, but it's yours. And that's where the power begins. Next, you burn the script. Nietzsche didn't mince words. The herd's a trap, a chorus of voices telling you to sit down, shut up, fit in. You've memorized their lines: be practical, be nice, be safe, but they're not yours, so rewrite them. Stop asking what the world expects and start asking what sets your blood on fire. It's counterintuitive, isn't it? You've been taught that freedom comes from following the path laid out for you: school, job, house, repeat. But real freedom is carving your own, even if it's rough, even if it's lonely. Nietzsche lived it, shunned, broke, half-mad, but fiercely his own. You don't need his madness, just his nerve. Then there's the radical shift. Stop believing happiness is the goal. Schopenhauer would scoff at your chase for it. Life's a pendulum of want and boredom, he'd say, and you're stuck swinging. So flip it, aim for meaning instead. Viktor Frankl did this in the death camps, finding purpose in the ashes of despair. You don't need a gulag to start, you just need to decide that your life matters beyond comfort. What's worth suffering for? What's worth your fight? The lie says you're here to feel good. The rebellion says you're here to burn bright even if it hurts. Practically, this looks like action, small, defiant steps that defy the inertia. You've told yourself you can't change. Prove it wrong. Quit the job that's killing you, even if the next step's unclear. You've said you're not creative. Pick up the pen, the brush, the guitar, and dare to suck at it. Sartre's freedom means you're not bound by who you've been, you're what you do now. History's full of rebels who broke free. Socrates drank the hemlock rather than bow. Frida Kahlo painted her pain into power. They didn't wait for the world's approval, neither should you. But here's the twist: you don't fight the lie with force, you outgrow it. The brain's wired for safety, clinging to old patterns like a scared child. Don't wrestle it, rewire it. Neuroplasticity says you can: new thoughts, new actions, new grooves. Tell yourself the truth over and over until it sticks. I'm afraid, but I'll do it anyway. I don't know who I am, but I'll find out. It's not about erasing fear or doubt. It's about walking through them. The lie thrives on your stillness. Move, and it starts to fray, and the world, it'll push back. Society doesn't like rebels, it prefers you tame, predictable, buying what it sells. Friends might drift when you stop playing small. Family might frown when you ditch the shoulds, that's the cost. But look at Huxley's warning: a world of conformists is a world of sleepwalkers, drugged on soma and screens. You're waking up, let them sleep if they want. Your rebellion isn't loud, it's steady, quiet, unshakable. You're not here to scream, you're here to build something real. The power comes when you reclaim your voice. Stop saying what's easy, and start saying what's true. To yourself first: I'm lost, I'm angry, I'm alive. Then to others. It's not about being cruel, it's about being honest. The lies kept you muted, nodding along to keep the peace. Enough. Speak what you see, even if it trembles, even if it's raw. Dostoevsky's characters bled truth, flawed, tortured, but real. You can too. Your voice isn't just sound. It's a weapon, a spark, a lifeline. You're stronger than you think. The lie made you feel fragile, a puppet of circumstance. But every time you choose the truth, every time you act despite the fear, you prove it wrong. This isn't about perfection, it's about momentum. One step becomes two, becomes a path. You're not breaking free to arrive somewhere, you're breaking free to start. To feel the ground under your feet, not someone else's. To breathe there that's yours. So here you stand, unshackled, unsteady, but awake. The lie's losing its grip, and something's rising in its place, something fierce, something you've always had, but never claimed. What is it? You're close now, closer than ever, to the edge of a truth so vast it could swallow the old you whole. Are you ready to leap? You've clawed your way here, through the muck of denial, the thorns of rebellion, to a place where the air feels different, thinner, sharper, alive. The lie's grip is slipping, its voice a fading echo. You're not the same person who started this journey. You can't be, because now you see it, the ultimate truth, the one that's been waiting all along, patient as stone, vast as the sky. It's not a neat answer or a comforting pat on the back. It's a revelation that cracks you open, redefines everything, and leaves you standing raw before the world. What is it? Life doesn't start when you fix yourself, when you win, when you arrive. Life starts when you stop lying to yourself, because that's when you finally meet you. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about unbecoming everything you're not. The masks, the roles, the stories you've worn, like second skin, they fall away, and what's left isn't polished or perfect. It's jagged, tender, real. Jung would say you've integrated the shadow, not tamed it, but embraced it. The flaws you hid, the rage you buried, the dreams you smothered, they're not your shame, they're your fire. You've spent your life running from them, thinking they destroy you, but they don't, they make you whole. The truth is, you're not broken, you're unfinished, and that's the beauty of it. Nietzsche would nod from the sidelines, fierce and unyielding. He'd tell you this is the moment you become who you are, not the herd's puppet, not society's echo, but a force of your own making. The lie kept you small, chasing borrowed God's success, approval, safety. Now you see, there's no God out there to save you, no finish line to cross. There's just you, standing in the void, free to forge meaning from the chaos. It's terrifying, isn't it? No map, no rules, just the raw material of your soul. But it's also electric. You're not waiting anymore, you're alive. And Schopenhauer, that grim prophet of want, would shift in his chair. He'd say life's still suffering, don't kid yourself, but now you suffer on your terms. You've stopped pretending the ache will vanish with the next shiny thing. You face it instead, eyes open, and find something stronger than happiness, purpose. It's not loud or flashy, it's quiet, like a river cutting through rock. You don't need to escape the pain, you need to walk through it, to let it carve you into something truer. The lie promised relief, the truth delivers depth. Sartre's ghost looms here too, whispering of freedom's weight. You're not a victim of fate, not a cog in the machine. You're the author, the actor, the stage. Every choice you dodged, every truth you buried, built a prison you called life. Now you see the bars were smoke, the chains were paper. You're free not to float above the mess, but to dive into it, to shape it. The lie said you had no power. The truth says you have all of it, and no one to blame when you stumble. That's the catch, and the gift, but the deepest cut comes from within. Gabor mate would sit you down, look you in the eye, and say, you've been hiding from your own pain. Not the loud traumas, maybe, but the quiet ones, the unmet needs, the unspoken grief, the child you left behind. The lie was a bandage, keeping it out of sight. Rip it off, feel it. It's not your enemy, it's your compass. The truth isn't just about strength, it's about vulnerability, about letting the wounds breathe. They don't define you, but they guide you. You're not here to be invincible, you're here to be real. This realization shifts everything. The world doesn't change, the screen still glow, the noise still hums, but you do, you see through the illusions now, the ads selling you wholeness, the voices demanding your conformity. Huxley's dystopia fades to static. You're not a consumer, not a statistic. You're a flame, flickering against the dark, and the past. Those years you spent asleep, chasing shadows? They're not lost, they're the soil you grew from. The lie was a cocoon, you're breaking out. So here you stand, stripped bare, no armor left. The air bites, the ground shifts, but you're steady not because you're fearless, but because you're honest. Life begins here, in this fragile, ferocious moment, where you choose to see yourself as you are, flawed, wild, alive. It's not an end, it's a beginning, a call to move, to create, to love, to fight, not for someone else's dream, but for yours. The truth isn't a destination, it's a spark. What will you do with it? Picture this, you walk outside tonight, the stars indifferent overhead, the wind brushing your skin. You're alone, but not lonely. You're uncertain, but not lost. You ask yourself one last time, who am I? And for once, you don't rush to answer. You let the question hang, let it bloom. The lee's gone quiet, and in its place is a pulse, yours. Steady, unbroken, you take a step, then another. The world waits, vast and unscripted. Where you go next is yours to decide. But you're awake now, and that's enough.